39% of adult Americans believe that marriages are now obsolete. Suppose a random sample of 500 adult Americans is asked whether marriage is obsolete. Describe the sampling distribution of p hat, the proportion of adult Americans who believe marriage is obsolete. Okay, so we have a situation very similar to this. We have some big parent population. Who is the parent population in this problem? All adult Americans. I'm assuming in the US or in the world, it doesn't really specify, it just says adult Americans. Adult Americans. So this is the population of Americans. Okay? All Americans. Okay? Of all Americans, we are told that 38% of them, 39% of them, 39% believe that marriage is obsolete. Which is P, so this is P equals to 0.39, right? That's these people there. All right, we're going to take samples of what size? Suppose a random sample of size 500. So we're taking samples, sample of size n equals to 500, and for each sample we pull, we do lots of samples. Every single sample is going to have a different proportion. Maybe one of them has 0.35 in that sample. Another sample might have 0.42 in that sample, and so on and so forth. Okay. And then we take those samples and we graph them. Are we guaranteed that this will be a normal distribution? Are we guaranteed? Well, we have to check if it satisfies those two conditions. Condition number one is it true that our sample size is less than 5% of the population? Well, all Americans, 315 million or so, taking a sample of size 500, that's definitely less than 5%. We're okay there. Okay. On the other hand, the other condition is that n times p times q must be greater than or equal to 10. So in our case, we have 500 times 0.39 times 0.61, and that has to be greater than or equal to 10. Is that true? This is condition number 2. Condition number 1 was 500 is definitely less than 0.05 of all Americans. So what is that? 0.39 times 0.61 times 500 equals to 118.95, definitely bigger than 10. So we're guaranteed that's going to happen. Okay? So because it satisfies both of those conditions, I know that the sampling distribution of sample proportions is going to be normal. So it's going to be a normal distribution of sample proportions. P hats. Where the mean of P hat is going to be equal to 0.39, and the standard deviation of P hat is going to be equal to 0.39 times 0.61 divided by 500, and then we take the square root of all that. Okay, so let's see what that is. 0.39 times 0.61 divided by 500 to the power of 0.5. Okay, so we get to 0.02181. Good. Any questions so far? No. Okay, so part B says, what is the probability that a random sample of 500 adult Americans has less than 38% who believe that marriage is obsolete? What is the probability that one random sample of size 500 contains 38% in my sample that, or less, that believe that marriage is obsolete? So we want to look at this. We have our normal distribution, normal distribution of sample proportions. P hat. Mu sub p hat, as we established, is equal to 0.39, and sigma sub p hat is equal to 0.02181, and I want to find the likelihood that one random sample will contain 38% or lower. 0.38 is going to be the area to the left of that value. Right? That's the area I want. Okay. So now it converts very easily back to a chapter 7 question. Good. So now it's going to be the probability that p hat is less than 0.38 is equal to normal CDF from negative infinity to 0.38, comma 0.39, comma 0.02181. So let's figure out that answer. 32.33. Okay, so that means this area is about 32.33%. Good. Questions? Questions, comments, issues? No? 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 Okay, let's look at part C. What is the probability that in a random sample of 500 adult Americans, between 40 and 45% believe that marriage is obsolete? Okay, so part C takes us between 40 and 45%. And here's this. C. So again, I have a nice normal distribution of sample proportions, p hats. The mean of p hat is equal to 0.39. The standard deviation of this p hat is 0.02181. Okay. And they want to know what is the likelihood that one random sample of size 500 results in between 40 and 45%. So that's going to be over here, 0.45, 0.40 and 0.45. Between 40 and 45%, it's going to be something over here. I want that area right in there. Trap between 0.40 and 0.40 and 0.45. Good. Okay, so that means the probability that p hat is greater than 0.40 but less than 0.45 is equal to normal CDF between 0.40, 0.45, 0.39, and 0.02181. Okay, so let's figure out what that is. So there is approximately, that area right there is 32.03%. This area here is 32.03%. There is a 32.03% chance that one randomly selected sample of size 500 will result in a sample proportion of between 40 and 45% who believe that marriage is obsolete. Questions? No? We're good? We're good? Okay, almost done. Part D. Would it be unusual for a random sample of 500 adult Americans to result in 210 or more who believe marriage is obsolete? Okay, now this one is always really tricky on an exam if it's stated this way. For some reason, C is a lot more likely that people will get it, but D confuses people. What's the difference between C and D? Well, it's just the way the problem is presented. So what do you think we have to do with that 210? So we have a sample size N of 500, and they tell us what is the likelihood that the number of people in our sample who believe marriage is obsolete is 210 or more. Okay, now when we do these, this is a distribution on sample proportions. So even though they didn't give you the proportion, the first thing you have to do for this question is convert it into proportions. Okay, so P hat is going to be equal to 210 divided by 500, which is equal to 42%. All right. Yeah. Okay, so this question is asking what are the likelihood that our result is P hat is 0.42 or greater. So we go back to that same question over there, right? It's a normal distribution of sample proportions with a mean of P hat, this is the P hat there, equal to 0.39, a standard deviation of P hat equal to 0.02181. And now we want to know what is the likelihood that one randomly selected sample of size 500 results in a proportion, a sample proportion of 42% or greater. So here's 0.42, and this is the area we want to find right in there. Okay, so the probability that P hat is greater than or equal to 0.42 is equal to normal CDF between 0.42 and positive infinity with a mean of 0.39 and a standard deviation of 0.02181. Good. Let's figure out what that is. .845, 84.49%. Depends on how you want to round it. Good. So this area is pretty small here. This is an area of 8.449%. So the likelihood that one random sample of size 500 results in a sample proportion of greater than 42% is only 8.449% chance that can happen.